Hello everyone, it's me Clayson. I just finished watching the Skull Island animated show, which is animated by Powerhouse Studios, and it stars Mae Whitman, Benjamin Bratt, Betty Gilpin, and of course, King Kong. Now, when it comes to Kong Skull Island, the 2017 film that was meant to launch the Monsterverse, a cinematic universe featuring our favorite kaiju and monsters from both American and Japanese pop culture, it's a fun summer action film for what it is. I don't really remember too many of the characters outside of the one John C. Reilly played, but it was a entertaining film with tons of creative kaiju, tons of fun, thrilling scenes, and of course, a Kong that's bigger and badder than he's ever been before. And when it comes to this animated show, it's going to be much of the same. It'll have a bunch of characters that you won't really get that interested in outside of maybe one or two, but the action scenes are fun, the animation is really good, and it really feels like Powerhouse Animation Studios is trying to make up for their previous animated project that wasn't very well received by audiences, though that has nothing to do with their animation talents. Let's get to the story, shall we? The story revolves around a group of survivors who all get stranded on Skull Island, and mainly two boys named Charlie and Mike. They end up going there, finding a bunch of mercenaries who are looking for a girl named Annie who's been on the island for over 10 years and has befriended this strange giant creature that she calls Dog. Even though it's not really a dog, it's more of a giant creature that she happened to tame. And turns out the only way to get off the island is to convince King Kong to fight a giant kraken that's preventing them from getting out into the civilization. So yeah, that's basically the whole story of the show. It really feels like this was the idea for a King Kong animated film per se, but they ultimately had to go for an 8-episode long Netflix animated series when that didn't take off. But because of that, we do get characters who feel like they would fit better for a Hollywood film rather than a series. In that they don't have very much development, a lot of them can be pretty one-dimensional, and some of them are literally just there to be red shirts to die. But Mae Whitman does play a pretty good Annie. That shouldn't be very hard to guess, considering she was also Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender and was also in Scott Pilgrim. And I do like Betty Gilpin and Benjamin Bratt's characters. They're accomplished actors who understand how to play these different characters in a pretty fun and interesting way. It's just the two boys, Mike and Charlie, that seem to get on my nerves the most. They have the worst lines, it feels like they're the most annoying, and it's really unfortunate that they're focused on the most. But all the scenes we get with King Kong are pretty fun. Kong, of course, doesn't have any lines outside of some roars and grunts, but all of his action scenes are really interesting. The animation really takes an uptick whenever he's on screen. And there's even some creative CG camera work done that shows Kong from different angles while still keeping the 2D animation solid and consistent throughout. Considering that Powerhouse Animation's shows always look great, the visuals definitely still live up to their standards. Plus, I do appreciate the ending, which seems to be going in an interesting direction with Annie's character. Especially for someone who's been on the island for several years and will probably have to get used to a new environment that's going to be completely unfamiliar to her, if you catch my drift. So if this gets a second season, I would like to see how that goes. Even if it might end up like one of their previous shows, Seis Manos, that has a very interesting cliffhanger at the end of the first season, but it ultimately doesn't go anywhere. Let's hope it doesn't end up like that. It's not a bad show by any means, but it's generally just what you'd expect from a animated sequel to Kong Skull Island. That's why I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. See you next time.